Oklahoma's own News on 6 starts now.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes.
Joe Biden officially declared the winner of the 2020 presidential election. President Trump says there will be an orderly transition.
But that did not stop riots at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. We have team coverage as we've now learned at least 4 people have died after that on Wednesday. Good morning. Welcome to 6 in the morning. It's 8 o'clock on the Tulsa CW. We thank you for making the switch. I'm Dave Davis.
I'm Leanne Taylor. We are glad you're here for our 8 o'clock hour. And Alan, we're always glad to hear about the weather, especially when we can see the weekend.
Yeah, well, some folks, though, won't like what's ahead of us here because it's going to be pretty chilly and cold, but the shower activity that we have this morning, the drizzle, is just about gone. It'll still be damp in some spots. We've had some snow this morning. Most of that's going to stay well east of us. Cold air will stick around. We're watching 2 waves this weekend. One is quite strong and stays just a little south of us. I'll get all the information for you in a minute. So let's take a look at the radar here. I've adjusted it so we can still see a little bit of very light precipitation between Bixby and Broken Arrow. This is kind of pinwheeling a little bit more to the west. The main storm system we're tracking is well south of us around the Arklatex region. So earlier this morning from Tahlequah to near Peggs, we had a little snow shower activity, but right now most of that is across extreme eastern Oklahoma into western Arkansas. 37 now in Tulsa and a north breeze at 9 miles per hour. 38 Bixby, 38 Sand Springs, 38 Sapulpa. So we have 30s to the north and 30s and a few 40s to the south. Hour by hour forecast, it's going to stay cold. 40 at noon and highs this afternoon only at 42. More on the cold weather and how long it's going to last in a couple of minutes.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Let's bring in Stephen Nares now, talk a little bit about the morning commute. How's it going now?
For the most part, fairly well. Of course, wet conditions are still with us this morning, as Alan mentioned. But we've held in pretty good shape, I should say. Most of our highway speeds are what you expect for 8 o'clock, wet roads or not. Highway 75 out of Glenpool and BA Expressway have slowed down a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary. And most of our other area highways are overall in pretty good shape. Here's the BA at 169. And yes, again, just ease off the gas pedal a little bit as you head out the door this morning with still maybe a area of ponding or 2, slick spot or 2, but in general, nothing major. Highway 169, the BA, and the BA towards I-44 was a little sluggish, but that's improved. And coming out of the south side, Glenpool, a little sluggish as it always is, about 141st Street South. But again, really nothing that you wouldn't expect for this time in the morning. Drive times, Lynn Lane, 13 minutes on the BA. Tulsa Hills, 6 minutes. In Sand Springs, 7 minutes to downtown.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, just before 3 o'clock this morning, nearly 12 hours after gaveling into session, Congress finally completed its count of electoral votes, confirming Joe Biden as the nation's next president.
Earlier in the day, mobs of President Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building to protest the election results. 4 people lost their lives during the chaos, including a woman who was shot inside the Capitol and later died. Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill with a developing story.
Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes.
In the early hours of Thursday morning, the joint session of Congress affirmed President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's Electoral College win after defeating objections to Arizona and Pennsylvania's votes.
The noes have it.
It came hours after Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building, some making it as far as Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. Others reached the Senate floor. Capitol Police drew their guns as people tried to enter the House. 4 people died during the chaos, 3 from medical emergencies. 1 woman was shot and killed. Members of the House and Senate had been evacuated from their chambers.
This is banana republic crap.
Wisconsin GOP Congressman Mike Gallagher sheltered in place in his office.
Mr. President, you have got to stop this.
Earlier Wednesday, President Trump continued his attacks on the 2020 election.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
Mr. Trump's Twitter account was later locked after posting this video message to his supporters.
So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The violence began shortly after some Republicans raised their first objection, an effort to show support for President Trump, even if it didn't have the votes to succeed.
And it gives credibility to a dark chapter of our history.
Early this morning, the White House released a statement from President Trump saying though he disagrees with the outcome of the election, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The mayor of Washington, D.C. said in a news conference last night more than 50 arrests have been made. She also said 2 pipe bombs were recovered along with Molotov cocktails. She's extended a public emergency order for D.C. for the next 15 days through Inauguration Day, January 20th.
Oklahoma Senator James Lankford initially planned to object the electoral votes.
But he changed his mind after the events that transpired at the Capitol yesterday afternoon. News on 6's Shannon Russo has more for us. Shannon?
Dave Lee, and Senator Lankford ultimately decided to certify Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. He is one of a handful of other senators who went against what they originally intended to do on Capitol Hill yesterday. Before protesters entered the Capitol, the senator was set to call for a commission to audit the election. We have video right here showing the moment when Senator Lankford was interrupted by an aide saying protesters had entered the building. Hours later, once things had calmed down, Senator Lankford was back on the Senate floor to address his colleagues. At that point, he ultimately called on Congress to come together and certify the election for an orderly transition of power.
Obviously, the commission that we have asked for is not going to happen at this point, and I understand that. And we're headed towards tonight, towards the certification of Joe Biden to be the President of the United States. And we will work together in this body to be able to set a peaceful example for the days ahead.
And the senator also said yesterday's violent actions severely damaged efforts to restore confidence in our elections. He also said that we should continue to call to examine election integrity through legal and peaceful means. Shannon Russo, Oklahoma's Own News on 6.
Thank you, Shannon. Some of the first images from rioters breaking into the House chamber included a familiar face. News on 6's Brooke Griffin is live with Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullin's interview. He was there just feet away from the door. Brooke?
Well, as people wearing Trump hats, flags, and gear stormed the Capitol yesterday, some of those who were inside the building at the time of that attack got a first-hand account of those events while they were unfolding. Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullin was one of those who was inside, and he has been very vocal on how angry he is when it comes to the riots at the Capitol building yesterday. He told News on 6 that at one point he looked around at what was happening and caught a glimpse of at least 50 people who appeared to be injured. But he says that those people deserve those injuries because when you attack a police officer and attack the nation's capital, you deserve to be hurt.
Some of them got hit in the face with clubs. One guy unfortunately got gouged in the eye with a flagpole. He probably is going to lose his eye. A lot of broken noses, and lots of cuts on the faces and heads and the back of the head.
The congressman said that at one point he did try to talk those protesters down. He did meet them at that door and try to speak with them, but he was not successful since shortly after that conversation, they were able to make it into the chamber. Live in the newsroom, Brooke Griffin, Oklahoma's Own News on 6.
Thank you, Brooke. It's now 8:08. We'll talk a little bit about the weather. Here's Alan Crone.
Yeah, cold today, cold tomorrow, cold the next couple of days. And we're tracking a few systems. One is leaving our area this morning. We still have a little bit of drizzle and a mist across the area right now. We're at 37, the wind chill at 30, north breeze at 9 miles per hour. The humidity is at 92%, the dew point's at 35, the pressure is 30.13 and rising. And you'll see that right now if you'll take a look at Lynx 1. And the temperature's into the 30s. There you go. So here we go. 38 at 10 o'clock, 40 at noon, and the 3 o'clock reading today at 42. Notice this probability. It's about to go away. We've got some drizzle, a couple of showers. That's just about it. You can kind of see on the radar scope. This is what it looks like for most of your radar applications on your phone. There's just a little shower activity still out there. I've adjusted that radar here, and we can find this really light precipitation that's continuing right along the Broken Arrow and Bixby and Tulsa International corridor. It's moving a little bit west and south, and you can see there's still a little bit near Grand Lake, but it's about to fall apart. The extreme eastern areas this morning for the next hour, it's going to be some light showers. It may mix with some snow flurries, but nothing significant. The area here near Fayetteville to the east, that's where we're going to find most of this winter weather. We do have a travel advisory underway for Fayetteville and Bentonville, and then winter storm warnings today in northwestern Arkansas. There's been between 3 to 6 inches of snow in some of those mountainous areas there that's east of Fayetteville. 36 in Claremore right now. It's 38 in Jenks, and we've got clouds and cold weather, 40 in McAllister. Notice this little pocket right in through here. It's slightly cooler, 34 degrees around Tahlequah, Watson, Westville. Even though most of the precipitation is ending, that's that small area, maybe all the way back down to Worcester, that you might see a snow shower or two. Otherwise today, clouds and cold weather. Highs near 42 in Tulsa, 43 in McAllister, and 40 in the Osage County area. Our next update, more on how long the cold weather is going to stick around and if anybody this weekend could see a snow shower.
All right, thank you very much. It's now 8:10. Coming up, we have reaction from Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum and Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt following the attack at the Capitol in Washington. And as that attack was happening, a group of President Trump supporters holding a rally in Oklahoma City at the state capitol. We'll have new reaction from them still ahead.
And still keeping an eye on that drive with wet roads on this Thursday morning. Details on slowdowns that you might encounter after the break.